Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with His Excellency Dr. Mongy. Sir, now, you've mentioned Egypt's chairmanship of the African Union in 2019, and during that time, Egypt proposed the African Free Trade Agreement, also known as CEFTA. Now, how far have we really maximized the potential of such a free trade agreement among all African states? Did we fulfill the full potential of such an agreement, not just for the benefit of Egypt, but the rest of the African continent? Did we make use of the trade within the African Free Trade Agreement, or are political turbulences hindering or challenging such a move?
Let me divide Africa continent with three parts. North, it's Arab countries. East, we are a member in COMESA.
Yes.
West, we are not a member at any treaties with West African countries. So we exert a lot of effort to finalize CEFTA. This number one. Number two, we already legalized this agreement. And from our side, no restrictions. We are ready to apply it from today. But unfortunately, around 80 or 90% from all African countries already agreed about the agreement, except two African countries, they didn't legalize the agreement till now. And we try to push them officially and non-officially through the civil society organization. We try to push them, and also we try to push them through Al-Azhar, and through church, and through third party, European countries. Can you imagine? Now, we try to push them through BRICS. So, we try to use bilateral relation and multilateral relation to convince some few African countries to speed up the procedures of legalization of CEFTA. This number one. Number two, why Egypt consider CEFTA? It's like a cornerstone of increasing our trade relation with West of African countries. And also why we consider this agreement, it's very important, not only for Egypt, but also for Africa. Let me mention some figures related to this point. First of all, this agreement will increase the integration between African countries. This number one. Also, most of the economists consider Africa, it's a virgin continent. So that's why you have a lot of raw materials you can import from Africa with low cost. Number three, it's a huge market, 1.4 billion people. The total gross product exceeding $3.5 trillion. Also, this continent, Africa, it supposes huge natural resources, most notably oil, gas, gold, uranium, and other minerals. So, most of African blocs stop, unfortunately, to the second stage of integration. You know, integration, it has at least 5 stages. In Africa, we have first stage, and we stop on the second stage. What the second stage, we call it free trade agreement. Just, we stop in this stage. This affected inter-trade between African blocs. Can you imagine, according to UNCTAD, it's the United Nations Trade and Development Organization, they mentioned, they stated, intra-Africa trade, it's the lowest between all regions worldwide. Okay, as its amount, how much? 12% of total African trade. Intra-trade between African countries, only 12% from the total of African trade, compared with 70% between European Union, 60% between Asian countries, 30% for North American countries. This is the light of the intense reliance on the market of European Union countries as a primary trading partner for most of African countries, where in terms in both sides, import and export, we rely on
Yes.
Europe.
Well, sir, I mean, if we do find some sort of a deadlock by the second stage, as you've mentioned, and our intertrade is only 12%, which is probably the lowest, why is that so? How can we actually try and boost intertrade relations if a free trade agreement is being halted or only at 80% because two countries are hesitant to conform to it? So why is the European community, why is the US using more and benefiting more from the African resources instead of the African states itself within, as you've mentioned, a virgin African continent?
Yeah, because of what? Because the second generation has its studying in America and Europe, and they succeeded to connect them directly and indirectly with Western culture. This number two, the infrastructure in African countries, it's very weak, very bad. So you have the chance to cultivate, but you don't have the chance to transport the goods to the nearest market or to the nearest port. Number three, loyalty not to the country, no, to the family. So all this, unfortunately, negative points which affect the integration between African continent. Number three, in fact, Egypt, it should have to exert a lot of pressure on private sector to go to Africa, because most of private sector companies prefer to go to Arab market or European market, because it's an easy market for them. They have a lot of information, but unfortunately hardly to find information about African market. I know that the commercial representative office, which working under the umbrella of Egyptian embassy in Africa, they try to do their utmost, but unfortunately, if you try to transport goods from Egypt to west of Africa, can you imagine the goods will go up to Holland and from Holland to go down to west of Africa. So we need regular shipping lines between Egypt and west of Africa. So let me concentrate again on the most important Egyptian gains from CEFTA. Let me mention in very few and short sentences that it will increase Egyptian export and also to reach $100 billion per year. As this is our goal.
That was the goal.
Number two, the volume of trade between Egypt and Africa, it's around $8 billion. Most of this figure is exporting from Egypt to Africa. Okay. Number two, reducing production cost, because we can import raw material from Africa. It's cheap compared with raw material from any other continent. Number three, opening major opportunity of investment cooperation in the light of establishment of investment risk guarantee fund in Africa. This positive aspect, we can realize it through concentration of cooperation with Africa, but unfortunately there is some restrictions coming from ourselves first, and the second regionally and internationally. As I mentioned, that private sector should play vital role in increasing export to Africa. Number two, government should protect the Egyptian businessman when he fly to some countries, especially West or middle of Africa,
Yes.
because most of countries do the same, especially China, India, and also Turkey. Sometimes security, it's not okay. As I mentioned, roads, it's not okay. So that's why you should give a feeling to the businessman that somebody protect him. This number. Number two, you should activate the role of insurance companies because you can open LLC to export your products to Africa, but unfortunately you cannot collect your money because of what? In 1 minute they are going to change the location and the places and the name of the company to another company. And I make many investigation in this area when I was working in Egyptian embassy in Nigeria. So second day when we go to make a check about the company, it's disappeared completely. So that's why businessman, he should guarantee his money back, not only from opening LLC, but also through insurance coming by the government.
Yes.
The third point, we should be a little bit generous for the companies which deal with Africa. But to copy India, to copy China, to copy Turkey, it's not shame, but this it's lessons, because as we mentioned that after 1995, we close all the files with Africa, so somebody else fill our places, and we would like to have our role again in Africa. This, it's not easy. You need to have money. You need to have well-trained young business to go there, because life in Africa, it's not easy. Nobody can bear the
Yes.
circumstances and the life in Africa except young businessmen. So we should have to collect some business young to train them in Egypt and to send them to Africa. And at that point, I guarantee to you that we are going to gain our role again and to increase our export to with Africa. And also, because young, they can understand the new culture in Africa. It's a completely new culture. Forget
completely
what happened in
different.
16.
Yes.
It's this era, it's already finished. We have a new era of social media, an era of United States, an era of the influence of Europe,
Yes.
an era of the strong role by China and India and Turkey and Israel. We should challenge, we should compete, we will win at the
Yes.
end of the day.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the exports, Egypt's exports to Africa by the end of 2023 reached about $5.5 billion worth of exports. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.